Hello, good morning. Oh, I forgot to turn my hearing aid off. Let me turn that off and we will continue. It's down. Okay, so this coming few days is Mother's Day is coming up. So I thought I would this morning honor mothers, plus my mother who passed away at 85 and I was 65 when she passed away. We were 20 years about in difference of age. So I have a picture of her hair when she was 16 or so. And she went to church. Look at that hair. She was a beautiful, beautiful girl. Played the guitar at church and sang, and I cannot carry a tune, but that's my mama. And so we're going to honor mamas today and talk about them. You know, Proverbs 31, the whole chapter, was King Lemuel. I believe I'm not pronouncing that right, probably. But the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. And she said, "What, my son? What, the son of my womb? And what, the son of my vows?" Then she goes on and says, "Don't give your strength to women, nor the ways to that which destroyeth kings." And so it goes on down. Read the whole chapter of Proverbs 31 because it tells you what a good woman is. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies, and they still are. A lot of people, a lot of young women are not virtuous nowadays. But that's the way it is. And it says, the heart of her husband trusts in her, so he have no reason to look around at other women. I'm paraphrasing some of this. Is that okay with y'all? So she seeketh wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She gets the job done. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. You know, Proverbs 31 says a woman can work and help earn money for a family. So she gets out of bed while it's still nighttime and feeds her household and she also feeds the help. She has help. She's a rich woman, so she takes care of that. So I like this verse. It says, she considers a field and she buys it, and the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. I planted 4 tomato plants. And this morning, another helper of James Keith, who is about 75 years old, still getting around great, still doing good. He put my guards around, you know, where they can grow up and be tall, and they'll be growing up as tall as the window. So she wraps her body in strength and strengthens her arms. And she realizes that her merchandise is good, and her candle goeth not out by night. She stays up late and gets the work done until she's finished. She's not afraid of the snow, for all her household is clothed in scarlet. She makes sure they got plenty of things to wear and good shoes. And that's what we always try to do with our kids, because when we got married and we had children, we had tough times at times. And when school started and we had to buy all those books for those kids, and we had to buy the books, they did not furnish your books. They never did. And that would, when I had 4 kids in school, that I had to save money ahead. Okay, so she makes fine linen and sells it, and she delivers girdles to the merchant. She's a go-getter, and I've always tried to be a go-getter, like Proverbs 31 woman. That is our standard, to do what we can and help her husband and help the family and take care of them. We're helpers. That's the way the Lord made us. Okay, strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. Like me, who used to be in love with Elvis Presley. And this morning when we went to a yard sale, this guy and his wife had been living there 70 years. They were getting rid of all this stuff they had collected. I never saw so many figurines. He had one table that was full of nothing but Elvis Presley paraphernalia. Is that the right way to say that? I don't know for sure. But anyway, James saw this big head about that tall, what, a foot and a half, and it was Elvis. And you know, when I was young out in California, and Kathy and Karen were not born yet, and then even if I didn't go to movies after they were born, you can't take two babies to the movies, but while I was still uh, not a mother, I would go to Elvis Presley movies. He was in the army and different things, and he could do that lip. I can't do that kind of lift one side, and he was the sexiest looking man I ever saw. I mean, I just thought he was so handsome. Fact is, I thought Buddy looked a lot like him, and it made me miss Buddy more than I didn't want Elvis. I wanted Buddy, but I kind of had a crush on Elvis when I was that age, but there was no way I'd ever meet him or anything like that. Okay, we're going on now. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness. Now, girls, that's our goal, to be kind to one another. I admit I have been snippy sometimes. Then I have to say, Lord, forgive me. Don't let me do that kind of stuff. Now, where was I? She opened her, and her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and she eateth not the bread of idleness. Means when she just don't sit around on her butt all the time, don't get the dishes done, which I know people like that. Now, I tell you what, the other day, when I had to do dishes, because, you know, James ain't going to do dishes. Though I do hear our pastor, Dr. John Carmichael, said that the Lord told him years ago when he was complaining about something not being done around the house. The Holy Spirit spoke to him and said, well, what have you been doing? Because supper wasn't on the table when he came in. And the Lord really got after him. And he said, well, what can I do, Lord? And he said, well, it would really help her if you would do the dishes. Do the dishes. And he said, the Holy Spirit said, yes, and from now on, I want you to be doing the dishes for that girl, because she does, and she's a beautiful girl. And they've been married. They got several kids, and now they got grandkids. So he started doing the dishes. But I found out the other day, I heard him talking about doing the dishes. They now have a dishwasher. So I don't know how long he's had a dishwasher. I don't even consider that hardly doing the dishes, except when I first married James, we had a couple of his, Tammy and Megan, and he raised Megan. Megan and his wife raised Megan, and Tammy had to live with them for a long time when she was a little girl. So they were living, we had a 2-story house up on the hill, and so they lived downstairs, and we lived up, and we got married, and they were supposed to, do the dishes and take care of that, and I did the cooking. Tammy was a mother of a 16-year-old girl, because Megan was 16, and they would say, whose turn is it to unload the dishwasher? What? How much energy does it take to unload a dishwasher? Have you loaded the dishwasher? That would be the next question. I said, what? You got a dishwasher. It's going to do all the dishwashing. Don't worry about it. I never did want a dishwasher. I like to do my dishes right by myself and get her done. I don't want to wait on the dishwasher. When I do something, I get her done. I asked James to help me make the king-size bed all the time. And he does not enjoy it. He just don't. But I can't handle that big old bed to put a sheet on. You have to walk around, and I guess it just takes me forever, and we can do it so much quicker. So I have to start warning him ahead of time. Tonight we're going to make the bed. We're going to change the sheet. Sometimes I start 3 days ahead of time. Let me turn this around a little. Isn't that pretty? Look, there's a coffee pot on the fire burning there. Can you see that? We're just sitting here relaxing. Okay, back to Proverbs 31. Let me see. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but she excels them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. And I gotta admit, I get a little vain sometimes, and I primp. But and sometimes I think I look cute. And I was listening to Granny Pat this morning, and she had on this pretty sweater, lipstick to match, and earrings to match. And she says, "Don't you think that's?" She primps just like I do. We primp together, Pat. And you did look cute as a button. She did. I watched her show this morning. Well, you know, James was doing some stuff, so I just listened to Granny some while I was walking after a while because I can put it on my phone and listen to her through my hearing aids. Okay, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. So thank you, Lord. I do know that you're in control, and I mean that, and He knows my heart. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So my mom was a great mom. She taught us of the Lord. You know, she didn't always go to church after we moved to Indiana because, you know, it was just a little Methodist church and they only had preaching once a week. But you know what? She taught us to pray, and she prayed, and Daddy we would have family prayer, and we had a couch in our living room that couch, we had boards in it. Let me show you my coffee pot. I want to show you this coffee pot. I need to get out in front of it. But we had a couch. Nah, it don't matter. You never know what I'm going to do next, and I don't either. But anyway, we had this couch, and before we went to bed, and before we got electric sometimes even, because we didn't get electric after we moved into the big house for 2 years. So we'd have the lamps burning, and we would all kneel around the couch, and Daddy would pray and lead the prayer. And he was always saying, "And Lord, lift us up nearer to you." And I was just a little girl, and I thought, how is Jesus gonna lift us up nearer to Him? I couldn't figure it out. I could just see Him like on an elevator, going up, closer to Him, closer and closer. I never realized for a long time what He really meant. He really meant that He wanted to be close to God and close to Jesus and walk that path that Jesus wanted him to walk. Mom always saw to it that we had Bible story books, and we all read them. And we all went to Sunday school out at the Methodist church, but we had to walk or else ride that one horse we had, but we didn't ride her to Sunday school. We walked. And in the summertime, I've always decorated my hair. When the flowers would start blooming, I would pick one and put it in my hair with a bobby pin and wear it to church because I always wanted to look pretty. And that was like me and Granny Pat. We always want to look pretty. I'll never forget when James got his new secretary a few years ago, and I went to meet her, and I had a flower in my hair and a scarf around my neck, and I wasn't doing YouTube or anything. That's just something I always did. And so as I went in, she says, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "I'm where I'm at. This is where I was headed." She said, "But aren't you going somewhere? You know, you're all dressed up." I said, "Honey, this is the way I run around all the time." And I've just always done that. Fact is, when I married James, Miss Tammy, who was not crazy about loading the dishwasher, she would say, I was at Walmart or somewhere, and I found some flowers for sale that you wear in your hair. And one day she gave me 4, and I was tickled pink because I didn't have that many at that time. And I would just change them. Now I have a box full of them because I ordered them from you-know-who. Amazon. And I got scarves and I got this one girl by the name of let's see, what was her name? Anyway, she bought me so many and saw that I got them, scarves and flowers and hats. And she was the sweetest thing. I gotta call her. She lives not too far away, and she found out where I lived, and so she was going to mail them, and she says it's too much to mail. So I managed to message her and tell her to just bring them to James's house. And she came and we met. And I just really liked her, and she was just so sweet. And she follows me on TikTok. She's on TikTok, but she checks me out ever so often, and we have fun. Now, my mom, I'm going to tell you more about my mom, this beautiful woman, and I'm going to read a little bit of it. She was born in a log cabin. She was born in the hills of Tennessee. Her mother was the last and seventh child of her grandparents. She had 2 sisters and 4 brothers. Her father, John Morgan Urey. Now, we're related to the Ureys, and the $1 Million Man, his real name was Lee Urey, and we was related to him, 4th cousin or something, and he lived down around Middlesboro, Kentucky, which is close over, and he was a Urey, and we found out later that some of us are, and even some of my friends on Facebook that I've made Facebook friends with, they're also related to Lee Urey through the Morgan side of the family, I think. I'm not sure, but they're really all Christian people. And one thing that I have on my mother's side of the family is they were Christians for generations back, and they prayed about everything. And my daddy's family on his mother's side was Christians back many years, generations. And so my grandmother, who passed away on my daddy's side at about 55 years old with heart trouble, and I was 12 years old, I missed her so bad because she spoiled me rotten. Because she lived not too far from me when I was like 5 and 6 years old down in Smith Holler. And Smith Holler, all the rest of her family lived up that holler, up high on the hill mountain there in Ewan, Virginia, out of Ewan, Virginia. I never did go up there. But Uncle Jake Smith was her brother, and he was an Assembly of God preacher. And he had sons that were Assembly of God pastors. So when Buddy and I went on the evangelistic field, we got in touch with them. And we went and had revivals at their churches where they were located in Indiana, and they had good churches. I tell you, the Lord went before us and really made the crooked places straight. So anyhow, my mom was crazy about her grandmother too. And see, this is she wrote this before she passed away, and she made copies, and she gave it to all us kids, and this is her history. And I've read it a few times, and I don't remember all of it. My memory is not that good. But anyhow, she had one uncle, Uncle Richard, that was nothing but trouble. And him and Grandpa, her daddy, they didn't get along. And I remember one time Uncle Richard and somebody else came over. We was down in Bink Holler visiting. And here come Richard and another guy. And Grandpa and him, they got in a fight right at the back door. I was there. I saw it. And I heard Grandpa, his mom's dad say, "And Richard, don't you ever come back here again. If you do, I got a gun and I'll shoot you." And boy, Richard and his buddy took off, and we never saw him anymore. I tell you what, those hillbilly people, they don't mess around. But I don't know what Richard had done. And Mom ain't here. Norman might know. I don't know. I called Norman to ask him about that rock situation. He said, yes, we gathered up rocks to take to the mud holes in the road because we had a mile of muddy road to go to the mailbox or to get to town. So Norman sure helped on. Norman was Daddy's #1 helper. Daddy kind of made a little slave out of Norman. Norman was strong, and I think it made him stronger because he has sure succeeded in life. And I'm proud of him, I tell you. He's very, very well-to-do. He can give his kids $30,000 at a time. Well, I'm glad he can do it because I tell you what, most of my brothers, all of them, including Tommy, was able. Well, Tommy passed away, but he still left his kids a pretty good inheritance, which he was proud of, I know, because he told me about it. And I said, well, the one daughter who took care of him all the time, he was taking care of her. So I know he did. But he divided whatever with the rest of them, whether they deserved it or not. He was a fair daddy. Oh, I tell you what, I've got some good brothers, and I've lost two of them now. And I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm enjoying while it lasts. I have always decided that the best thing to do is live each day and enjoy it as it lasts, because this too shall pass. Everything passes. So I'm enjoying today and thanking the Lord for it. And my TV that gives me a different scenery every day. I don't know what I'll tune in tomorrow. But you know, when I first started my YouTube, I don't know why, but I wanted pretty pictures in back of me. And I bought quite a few, and they're stacked around here, there, and yonder. I can see them over there, and out in where the washroom is. I have a washroom here. This is a one-bedroom apartment with a kitchen, living room on the other side. We had this place built when we went on the evangelistic field in 1980. The Lord spoke to my heart and said, you will need a place to be when you are not on the evangelistic field. So I said, I talked to Buddy. I said, let's borrow some money and build us an apartment in the rear of our house. And we did that. And then we rented our house for, well, our daughter moved in. And she lived there for many years. And then she moved away and married her second husband. And then I rented the front. And it was a good income for us while we was on the evangelistic field. And the girl that lived there would pay my bills for me and everything until I got it all set up at the bank where my utilities would be paid, apartment 2. And the front is apartment 1. So anyway, the Lord, like I say, it's just strange how things work out. Now, James said this morning, he said, honey, he showed me this breakfast set. I should have took a picture of it. Maybe I will later when he gets it in the house and set up, because this is going to be a long thing following this house thing that he's doing. But he found a blonde table and chairs, beautiful, looked like new, for $50. And he's going to put that in that kitchen out there, and it's a good sized kitchen, and it's going to look really good. I said, honey, you know, the Lord went before you again and made the crooked place. He said, I've been wanting that. I said, see how God met the desire of your heart? He does that all the time. God does that all the time, I found out. Oh, well, now, like I say, we live in the now. We don't live yesterday. We can't live tomorrow. So I'm enjoying today, sitting here treating my feet, talking to y'all. And there's so many of you. And I tell you what, it's amazing. I do not understand why my numbers are going up. They went down there for a while. And now all of a sudden, what happened? I don't know. I still got plenty, 68,000 something. I mean, that's a plenty. But you still watch it. That's just life. But I do enjoy some of my YouTube friends, like Granny Pat, Chit Chat with Granny Pat. And this young woman, she's only 73. She thinks she's a senior. To me, she's just still a girl because she's about the same age as my twins. But she's a mature woman, and she's had a lot of experiences. Life with, let's see, Kentucky Life with Debbie. That is a good channel. I think now she's got 150 subscribers. Y'all look her up. Subscribe to Debbie and watch her stuff. She did a little short a couple of days ago or sometime or other of her 2 little dogs wrestling, and it was so cute. She had never done a short. So I congratulated her on that because, see, she's like me. I didn't know what a short was. And then 967 Andy, who has now got 5,500 subscribers, because I've shouted him out a lot, and he has shouted me out a lot. If you go on to his 967. You can find me everywhere, all over his YouTube channel. And I want to shout him out because he's been so good to help me. And he's the one that taught me how to do shorts. I never knew about it. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know. So I'm trying to help Debbie along. She don't have 967, Andy. She's got us to help her. And if y'all can make suggestions to help Debbie, do that. She's got a wonderful attitude. And she's very sweet and receptive. She said, she said, she had been watching my YouTube, and she said, you know, I think I might do YouTube. I think I might have a lot to say. And it comes to find out, she does. So that's a true calling of the Lord. Her daddy was a minister, and she traveled with him and sang for him for like 5 years. And she's a good Christian woman, and her husband is not well and at all. And she's making the best of it. And she's got some horses and a beautiful another little dog that one, she said, passed away. Oh, my eyes itching. You just have to scratch here and yonder. That reminds me of Joni Erickson. You know, the one that's paralyzed from the neck down. Have you read about her, Joni Erickson? I think that's her name. And she, you know, she couldn't even scratch herself anywhere. But you still itch. But do you know she met a man, a Japanese man, I believe, and I read her book. And she got married, and then she had somebody to scratch her back if it itched. And she has, she's on YouTube, and she has encouragement channel to, like, you can make it with the help of the Lord. And she even painted pictures with a paintbrush in her mouth. That woman is so talented. You ought to look her up. I hope that name is right. Joni Erickson. I don't remember. My memory is not quite as good as it used to be. But I was watching President Trump the other day give a speech down at this college in Alabama. And that's where my grandson-in-law went to college. It's a famous college, and it's like a military college. And he was giving a speech, and he said he advised them that they could do whatever they set their mind to and read that book that encourages people. And I read that when I was younger, and I was telling James about it. And he had read it too. And now it's slipped my mind the name of it. Y'all probably know what it is. Tell everybody what it is. I hate it when I can't remember, but if you can't, you can't. But I read this encouraging book, Norman Vincent Peale. That's who it was. If you read that book, and it was such a good book, and he advised those kids to read that book. And evidently Trump read it when he was younger, because he goes by those rules, which is love people. Do you notice how he brags on people and loves them? And that Maya, the poet that wrote books on poetry, they pass out her slips and scripture slips down at the YMCA. And I got mine this morning, and it said, people will remember, they won't remember always what you said or what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. So if you can make people feel good about themselves, they will remember that. And that's such a wise thing. So y'all are all wonderful. You really are. And James is always bragging on me, and I'll tell you the truth. I brag on him often because, well, I'm not making it up. When I see him doing something good, I tell him, honey, you did great. Now, I've been working on, this is the truth, that when he buys some crap that I can't stand, I have learned to say, well, you're going to like that, which I'm not going to give. I don't care for it. But do I need to share that with him, that I don't care for it? The Lord has showed me, keep your mouth shut, woman. If you can't say something good, don't say anything. Hush. That's the Holy Spirit talking. That ain't the devil. That's the Lord. The Holy Spirit saying, if you can't say something good, don't say anything. Of course, that's a good advice, and that's been around a long time. It's not original with me. So I have started, when he bought that Elvis Presley head this morning, it wasn't pretty. But what did I say? Well, what do you know? Well, it's certainly big, isn't it? I mean, and good. If he's happy with it, I'm happy. So that's the way the Lord is working on me, because I have been known to say, what in the world do you see in that? And I don't see nothing in it. So I'm learning, and I'm 91, and I'm still learning things. Keep your mouth shut, woman. Sometimes we have to. We don't need to give our opinion all the time, and I'm bad to do it. I've always been that way. Mom told me when I was little, 5 years old or so, she said, you're going to be you're just like Aunt Nellie. I said, what do you mean? Aunt Nellie was a big, heavy-set woman, and I was just a little girl, and I said, Mommy, I'm not going to be heavy-set and fat. She said, that's not what I mean. You tell everything you know. I guess that's why I'm good on YouTube. I tell everything I know. She says, and when Miss Markle comes down here to visit, you tell her stuff that ain't none of her business. Now, don't you be telling everything you know. That's just the way with Aunt Nellie. And Aunt Nellie, I found out, and I met her when I got older. We met her when we went out on the evangelistic field. And fact is, Aunt Nellie was a beautician. And they lived in Cumberland Gap. She had a beauty shop, and her husband was a barber, and he had a barber shop next door. This has been years ago, kiddos, when I was 9 years old. And I have told this before, but a lot of y'all haven't heard it, because I got a lot of new subscribers, so I won't tell it anyway. So Mom and Daddy, really Daddy, took me over to Aunt Nellie's, and Aunt Nellie gave me a permanent wave, and it got kinky just like Kentucky Life with Debbie. And I thought I was beautiful. Debbie has got naturally curly hair that is so pretty to me. I really like it. But I really liked it. But Aunt Nellie was the kind of woman that would say, you know what? If she met somebody and they had on purple or something that she didn't care for, she would say, you would look a lot better if you wore blue. Or if you would just make that a little longer, and you really are to comb your hair the other direction. She was just like that. If she saw something that would correct you, she would. And so Mama says, you're going to be just like Aunt Nellie. And I have found that I'm a whole lot like Aunt Nellie. I spin my opinion when nobody's interested. But that don't bother me. I still say it a lot of times. I'll never forget when, me and Beulah May, which was my good friend who has now gone on to be with the Lord, she got Alzheimer's, but I had not seen her most of her married life or when she was with her husband. And then she got a divorce and she was alone, and she got a boyfriend for a long time. And anyway, after we both was all through that, I was walking up at Green Tree Mall, where I went walking all the time, and there was Beulah May. And I could hear somebody hollering, Clarine, Clarine, that's my name, Lois Clarine, Baird-Rice Blair. So I said, who is that? Oh, Beulah May. Well, I had seen her at a flea market 1 or 2 times during those years, and she wore wigs that looked horrible because her hair, she had hair that had a lot of cowlicks in it. It would just go every direction. You couldn't get a permanent. She couldn't do nothing to make her hair look like anything. Just like mine got so thin and straight. And so she wore wigs. And she had on a wig that day that looked like crap. Awful, awful. And I wear wigs, and I've been wearing them since I was 26 years old. See, I was in the hospital giving birth to Kimberly 60-some years ago, and the girl in bed, we had a two-bed place, and this other girl's hair looked gorgeous. And I said, how can you keep your hair looking that good when we just had babies? And I had my hair pulled back in a little bitty ponytail, and the back pulled back straight because I didn't have enough to even give a permanent wave. She said, this is a wig. I said, where do you get it? And back then they were selling them at Kmart. And for like $15. Well, guess what? That's when I started wearing wigs, and I've been wearing them ever since, and very glad to have them. So Beulah May was wearing this wig, and we was at the mall, And I said, Beulah, you know what? And I was carrying a pocketbook back then. I don't carry a pocketbook now. I said, I have a hairbrush in my purse. This is Aunt Nellie coming out in me. I said, you know, we could go to the restroom and I could fix your wig. She said, okay. Because I'm older than her. I'm like a big sister. So she said, okay, show me how. Because she had trouble doing her wig. So we went to the restroom. I took that brush. I ratted it some, you know, rat the wig to make it fluff out in certain places and smooth it down in others and put it back on her head. And I said, what do you think? She said, wow, that looks good. I said, well, now that's the way you do it. And if you need more help, I'm an expert, and I am. And I helped her many times after that. When she wanted to buy a new wig, I'd go with her, help her pick her cut. One time we went, she had a wig store over in Louisville that she liked to go to. And before she got forgetful, but a little forgetful, she says, I can't really remember how to get there. I said, don't worry about it. I have a GPS. I had got a phone that would tell you. I said, just give me that address and we'll get there. So we got there. And then when I put it, and she bought her wig, and we was headed home, I said, now I got to put in GPS where I live. And I put it in, and it took me in through subdivision, through back. I said, where are we at, Beulah? This GPS is running us all over the outskirts of Louisville. We was over the bridge, and I don't like to go over there by myself. And so it took us an hour to get home when it should have took 20 minutes. But we saw things I have not seen since. It was fun in a way. But I said, Beulah, you know, I order my wigs from Paula Young. I said, let me give you a catalog so you can order your wigs from Paula Young. So that's what she started doing. And it was a lot simpler for her. And it was a lot simpler than running to Louisville, because that was a good wig store. But the thing with that wig store, now Beulah had money. A wig over there would run you like $125, where you can get almost the same wig for $60 from Paula Young. And she was pretty tight when it come to money. And her home was paid for. She did it all on her own. After she divorced her husband, was not a nice man. She told me about him. He was the father of her one daughter, who is a beautiful woman. And she had one granddaughter who I met when she was 10 years old. Because Beulah May and I started running around. We'd go dancing together after I finally got my nerve up and said, I'm getting out of this house, after Floyd went away. So we'd go to the VFW and dance, and then we met Anna Marie, and we was the trio. And we'd go dancing. If nobody danced with us, we danced with each other. It was good times. We enjoyed it very much. Me and Beulah May and Anna Marie. And Anna Marie says, they're going to think we're lesbians. I said, we don't care what they think. We know better. We're not lesbian. I wasn't looking for a man at that time. I was just happy to have friends, honestly, and to go out and eat with and all that. And then when Floyd passed away and I changed churches, then I met James. And it was a whole different ball game. And God has been good. And oh my goodness, I went 38 minutes. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Well, I'm going to hush. I think I'm done, but it was fun. So God bless y'all, and y'all walk that path where Jesus would be pleased with you. Bye-bye.